Hello and welcome to TVB News. The Hong Kong government and mainland authorities are looking into extending the opening hours of border control points between Hong Kong and Shenzhen. As Sharon Tang reports, authorities are also considering to allow no clearance for staff who travel between the two technopoles in Shenzhen and Hong Kong.
Currently, around 350,000 people cross the borders between Hong Kong and the mainland each day, except for the Lok Ma Chau Huanggang control point and the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macau Bridgeport. There is no late-night cross-border services for travellers in other checkpoints. This woman said it would be great if the control points open for 24 hours because that would facilitate the people who travel to work on the mainland. In Lechko today, lawmakers discussed how to make it more convenient for travellers to cross the borders, including the possible extension of the operating hours of the control points.
Can we have standard operation hours, say from 6:30 a.m. all the way to midnight? That way, the travelers don't have to worry too much.
For railway services, every night they leave aside 2 hours for them to carry out maintenance and repair works of their trains. Well, they have to take into consideration railway safety. We have talked to the mainland authorities and the feedback is positive.
Meanwhile, many border control points in Macau have introduced the so-called collaborative inspection and joint clearance. Under such arrangements, visitors will only need to have their documents inspected once to pass through the immigration facilities of both sides. Chuck noted current technology allows contactless automated immigration clearance, which is helpful in terms of planning such arrangements in future. Also, authorities revealed they are thinking of letting certain people cross the border between the technopoles in Shenzhen and Santin without clearance.
I would put the BCP over there without any clearance checks, but we need these people to pre-register. And when these people have prior registrations, they can take the BCP in the river loop.
The Deputy Security Secretary added authorities will have to look at the laws from both sides before pushing ahead with such an idea. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
The Hong Kong e-toll will be implemented at the Cross Harbour Tunnel starting Sunday. While some cabbies are saying the system has failed to detect labels on their taxis, the Transport Department said many taxis have not sought assistance. At 4 a.m. Sunday, lanes in both directions of the Cross Harbour Tunnel will be cordoned off for an hour to prepare for the Hong Kong e-toll. Motorists are reminded to plan their journeys in advance. Still, since the implementation of the new toll system, some cabbies have said it has failed to detect their taxis. Still, authorities say they have already set up 3 booths to help taxi drivers install the appropriate toll tax on their taxis. But out of 18,000 taxis in town, only 200 completed registration. Chief Executive John Lee met with Consul General of Japan in Hong Kong to express concerns over Japan's plan to release treated nuclear wastewater into the sea. The CE told Consul General Kenichi Okada that Japan's 30-year-long discharge plan is both unprecedented and set to cause irreversible risks to food and environmental safety. If Japan insists on moving forward with a plan, the SR government will take action to protect its citizens' well-being. While closely monitoring the situation, Lee said the government is willing to stay in touch with Japanese authorities. Last week, the SR government announced its plan to ban imports of marine products, sea salt, and seaweed from 10 prefectures or regions near Fukushima. They include Tokyo, Chiba, and Ibaraki. The ban will be in place once Japan's discharge plan begins. Over the past weeks, family members of the 8 pro-democracy fugitives wanted by the National Security Department have been taken away by the police for questioning. On that, the security chief said the police will bring in people to assist in investigations when the need arises. Secretary for Security Chris Tang made the remarks one day after the older brother of former lawmaker Dennis Kwok was taken by the National Security Police. Kwok was among the 8 activists who fled overseas, who now has a $1 million reward per head for information leading to their arrests. Another pro-democracy figurehead whose family members were taken in for investigations is unionist Meng Siu-tat. Earlier this year, the United States shot down a Chinese balloon which entered America's airspace, claiming it was spying on the U.S. The Pentagon later said the balloon did not collect intelligence while flying over the country. How did the military decision-making process to shoot come to shape? NBC News spoke to the commander at a rarely seen military base.
Longitude 181.0.
We were granted rare access inside NORAD's Joint Operations Center, where potential air and maritime threats to the U.S. and Canada are tracked and analyzed.
We're just checking his origin, and we'll get that from FAA.
Whether a civilian plane entering restricted airspace, as in this exercise, a ballistic missile launch, an unwelcome visitor over the Arctic, or a high-altitude balloon.
You believe 100% it was a Chinese spy vehicle?
Absolutely, it was a Chinese spy balloon.
Nearly 6 months after the balloon drama that captivated the country, NORAD Commander General Glenn Van Herk sat down with me to talk about the decision-making that led to the balloon's ultimate destruction. It was set in motion days earlier in a high-stakes mission to intercept it over Alaska.
We sent a package that included F-22s and F-16s, along with a support package of a E-3 AWACS aircraft with tanker support.
Did you know what its mission was?
We had worked with the intelligence community, and we had a good idea of what the mission actually was going to be. Once we intercepted the high-altitude balloon just off the coast of Alaska, I made the assessment that it didn't demonstrate hostile intent.
The balloon briefly sailed over Canada and then back into the U.S. and towards sensitive military sites.
There was obviously a great political debate over the timing of the shoot down. From your military perspective, did things go in the order they should have?
The president directed us to shoot it down safely, and we shot it down safely at the place and time of our choosing.
He gave you the discretion to decide where that safe place was?
We decided, based on his direction, when to shoot it down.
The balloon was shot down off the South Carolina coast.
They just shot it.
But not before the military says it collected its share of intel, too.
What I would stress to you, Lester, is that this turned out, I think, the best it could for our nation. We know that no American people were injured. We maintained the safety. We know for a fact that we mitigated their collection and we maximized our collection.
The balloon episode, a far cry from the Cold War image of NORAD when the threat of a Soviet nuclear strike was the primary concern. Its iconic command post burrowed deep inside Colorado's Cheyenne Mountain and depicted in the movie War Games, now an alternate joint ops center with U.S. and Canadian operators standing watch.
It's daunting. It's a little bit high stress. It's a very busy environment, but we train to that.
This mountain complex was engineered to withstand a direct nuclear attack, and integral to that are a series of blast doors, 3 feet thick. The last time they were closed operationally was on 9/11.
India, the world's largest exporter of rice, has stopped the export of its largest rice category. The move is set to roughly half shipments, triggering fears of further inflation on global food markets. Jason Tan has details.
On Thursday, India said it will not export any more non-basmati white rice to ensure there will be enough for the domestic market. The reduction in shipments could inflate food prices, already driven up by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, as well as erratic weather conditions in many parts of the world. Indian authorities said the ban is necessary as retail rice prices in the country soared over 11% in 12 months after heavy monsoon rains caused significant damage to crops. The category impacted includes non-basmati white and broken rice. India shipped around 10 million tons of such rice overseas last year. Currently, India exports more than 40% of the world's rice to countries such as China, Benin, and Senegal. Hong Kong, meanwhile, mainly buys its rice from Thailand and Vietnam, the world's second and third largest rice exporters. Industry watchers said India's ban would disrupt the global rice market. Its impact would be greater than that of Ukraine's impact on the wheat market due to the Russian invasion of their country. This is because rice is a staple for more than 3 billion people. Nearly 90% of the water-intensive crop is produced in Asia, where the El Niño weather pattern usually brings lower rainfall. And Thailand and Vietnam do not have enough inventories to plug the shortfall. Global rice prices are already hovering at their highest levels in 11 years. Jason Hunt, TVB News.
Back locally, the next policy address is poised to be unveiled in October, with a public consultation period soon to begin. Today, Chief Executive John Lee released a video calling on citizens to weigh in and offer their opinions. The video was posted on the Chief Executive's social media page. In it, John Lee reviewed the government's work over the past year, including efforts to lead Hong Kong out of the pandemic and a slew of measures to boost the economy. Also featured are 4 Hong Kong citizens who shared how they feel about recent developments in the city and beyond. One lauded the government's interdepartmental crackdown on hygiene black spots, including Nam Chang Street. This interviewee, now living in Shenzhen, expressed gratitude for the government's move to widen the eligibility for the healthcare vouchers to Hong Kong retirees across the border. And a young face from the Strive and Rise program offered to secondary 1 to 3 students from underprivileged families. During the consultation period last year, the government conducted about 30 sessions to take in views and suggestions from lawmakers, representatives from various sectors, and the public. Chief Executive John Lee also had district visits to tap more public opinions. Welcome back. By-elections for 3 parliamentary seats were held in Britain on Thursday, following the resignation of lawmakers from the ruling Conservative Party, and that party lost 2 out of the 3 contests. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's seat was up for grabs in the western fringes of London, and the Conservative Party managed to retain the seat. However, current leader Rishi Sunak's party was not so lucky in other parts of England, where the 2 opposition parties won a seat apiece in mainly Conservative areas. Tracy Furness has more.
The Conservative Party won Boris Johnson's former parliamentary seat by 495 votes in the London boroughs of Uxbridge and South Ruislip.
Tuckwell Stephen, commonly known as Steve Tuckwell, the Conservative Party candidate, 13,965. And I hereby declare that the said Steve Tuckwell is duly elected.
I'm humbled and proud to be elected as the MP for the area in which I was born, raised and built a family in, and to represent my home is a huge honour.
But the Conservatives lost the parliamentary seat in Somerton and Frome in southwest England.
Dyke Sarah Joanne, Liberal Democrats, 21,187. And I do hereby declare that Sarah Joanne Dyke has been duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Somerton and Frome constituency.
The candidate from the Liberal Democrats, the 4th largest party in Parliament, won the seat with a majority of 11,008 votes, overturning Conservative majority of almost 20,000 in the last general election. Labour candidate Keir Mayer, who is 25, won the by-election in the northern county of Yorkshire in the previous Conservative area of Selby and Ainsty.
In this campaign, we have rewritten the rules on where Labour can win. People have opened their doors to us and embraced our positive vision for the future, and thousands of the votes cast yesterday were in Labour's box for the very first time.
Labour said before the results that a victory would be the biggest majority the party has overturned at a by-election since World War II. These defeats leave Conservative lawmakers rattled ahead of the likely national election vote next year. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Thailand's election-winning Move Forward Party has made way for runner-up and alliance partner Pheu Thai to try to form the next government. This after Move Forward leader Peter Limjaroenrat's bid for the Prime Minister post was twice voted down this month by a military-backed Senate. A Move Forward official said his party would back any candidate Pheu Thai would put forward for Prime Minister in a parliamentary vote scheduled on next Thursday. Pheu Thai is linked to former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. It is expected Pheu Thai will nominate 60-year-old real estate mogul and political newcomer Srettha Thavisin for Prime Minister for the next vote. Thavisin founded Sansiri, one of Thailand's leading property developers. His company employs over 4,000 people with a revenue of nearly 7 billion Hong Kong dollars. President Xi Jinping hosted a luncheon in Beijing to celebrate the 100th birthday of visiting former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, as well as his 100-plus visits to China. Describing Kissinger's trip as a private visit by a citizen, the White House expressed regret Kissinger was able to get more of an audience in Beijing than some sitting U.S. officials. I wish you good health with blessings of longevity, Xi told Kissinger. Xi noted the veteran diplomat's visit is of special significance. Symbols of longevity, too, salient across the setting and decor at the banquet hall to celebrate the centenarian's birthday. Decorating the table is this flower-adorned miniature landscape designed with a bridge. It is said to represent the bridge between China and the U.S. The government made a request in early June to forbid a series of unlawful acts in relation to the 2019 protest song Glory to Hong Kong. In the High Court today, the Department of Justice said the injunction is necessary to safeguard national security. Mimosa Ngai reports.
Representatives of the Department of Justice arrived at the High Court this morning for the highly anticipated case. In June, the government applied to the Court of First Instance for an injunction and an interim injunction to restrict acts relating to Glory to Hong Kong, a controversial 2019 protest song, including broadcasting, performing, publishing, printing, and selling the song in any way. While the case was initially handled by Judge Wilson Chan, it is now passed on to another judge, Anthony Chan. Senior counsel Benjamin Yu, on behalf of the Department of Justice, argued the injunction is for local residents only. But if people are unaware of the injunction and is involved in one of the restraint acts, they will need to bear legal responsibility. Justice Anthony Chan pointed out that if a newcomer to Hong Kong commits a prohibited act, if there's an injunction, the person will breach the national security law and the injunction simultaneously, which may lead to double jeopardy when a person is persecuted for an offense more than once. Yu said even if such a situation happened, defendants would receive a fair trial. And Yu admitted that freedom of speech will be affected once the injunction is passed. Nonetheless, he stressed that the injunction is necessary to safeguard national security and public interest. Yu added the song can arouse people's emotions and it will continue to be circulated without legal prohibition. Moreover, the government's barrister said the injunction is not intended to restrain journalists as long as they conduct lawful journalistic activities. Senior counsel Abraham Chan, speaking on behalf of Friend of the Court, questioned the practical side of the injunction. He said the city's NSL clearly states the crime of secession, making the injunction no different to the law. Rather, Chan believes authorities should put more effort in NSL education to increase public awareness.
As the judge needs more time to consider the case, the final ruling will be made at 4 p.m. next Friday. Mimosa Ngai, TVB News.
And a correction on earlier stories. The city's Undersecretary for Security is Michael Chirk. Meanwhile, starting today, individuals who have not managed to collect the second phase of the consumption vouchers of $2,000 will receive a reminder text message. This involves some 1 million people who have yet to receive the dispersal, which has been available for collection since mid-July. That's because they have not used up the previous round of $3,000 in eligible spending before the end of June. They are reminded to use up the money by end of July to receive the latest $2,000 voucher. If the $2,000 dispersal remains unused for after October 31st, the voucher will be forfeited. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.